1941. Even we don't know exactly when he was born. What's interesting here is that, I mean, first of all, the fact that he did a self-portrait to begin with, because what the hell is that? It's a total waste of time and paint. Nobody's interested in you, so it has to be sort of an ego thing. I mean, if you add 60 years or so to this, artists are starting to be seeing themselves more as significant people. But what's here on the frame, this is in the National Gallery of London. This point, and it's actually not 100% sure that it is a self-portrait, but I think almost certainly it is. Done in 1433, but on the frame are written, first of all, his motto up at the top, "Als ich kann," in sort of slightly weird letters. The best I can. That's his sort of personal motto. I'm going to do the best I can. But then down at the bottom, it's written, basically the date of it, of the whole picture, Jan van Eyck, or Johannes, not sure if I can zoom in on that. Johannes, again, they abbreviated everything, which makes it different. Johannes de Eyck may fake it. That means Jan van Eyck made me. And keep that in mind, because in a week or so from now we'll see a different way of signing something. And then the date, Anno, MCCCC 33, 1433, 21st of October, for God's sake. He even did it to the day. I think it took him a bit more than a day to paint this, so that's presumably when he finished it. And that is a unique document, in a way, to have that amount of information attached. So again, that implies a sort of ego that he's interested in immortality, basically, I guess you could say. So this is, again, I just want to give you, that's another sort of high resolution image. I can zoom in on it in a second, but a few facts about him that you should know. I pointed out on that map, probably born in this town called Maas Eyck, but don't worry about that. He's about 10 years younger than Compère, a little bit younger than his brother Hubert. And the official sort of dates that we know about him, 1422 to 24, don't write all this down necessarily, but he's working in The Hague, which is now in the Dutch Republic in the Netherlands, a little bit further north. He's working for the Count of Holland. And 1425, he's now, his title was Valet de Chambre to Philip the Good, the Duke of Burgundy, and that means he was sort of a courtier as well as a painter. Which is not necessarily a good thing, because it means you've got duties to perform as well as just painting. And he follows the Duke around a little bit. He's in Bruges and Lille, which is now in France. No, maybe that's still in Belgium, isn't it? 1427, he's in Tournai, and that's where Compère was. So for sure, because it was a small community, he would have seen Compère's work, almost certainly would have met him. And again, don't worry about all the details, but in 1427 he's down in Spain. And this is sort of an interesting job that he's got, because he's painting a portrait for a potential wife for the Duke of Burgundy. If you know Holbein, and he's the very last artist we look at, a German artist working in England, he runs around Europe painting prospective brides for Henry VIII, which would have kept him busy, I guess. But it's a difficult thing, because you have to combine realism, because you've got to show what the person looks like, with, again, your skill as a painter. But you can't sort of fancify things that much. What happened with Holbein, there was a famous case where, I think it was about wife number 4 or 5. The king had seen the portrait, and said, "Oh, that's not, I'll have her." Oh. And the woman finally showed up, and Henry VIII was just so disgusted, he said, "She is no better than a Flemish mare, a horse." And he sort of spun around and left her alone, which was good for her. Yeah,
please.
Very good. I wasn't going to burden you with that information. How did you know that?
Actually, the Tudors, the show.
Oh, from the telly. Oh, good.
I actually know so much.
Have you been watching?
Just from watching that show.
Have you been watching The Borgias, which have just started up again? That's the Italian. That's a really good show. None of you watched. It's got Jeremy Irons as this Borgia pope who was Alexander VI.
Oh.
It was on last night. I got home. I totally forgot to watch it. That's how old I'm getting. So I went home just to watch it. Anyway, so 10 o'clock Tuesday night. I'm sure you'll find it somewhere else as well. But this was this amazing. They were actually Spanish and this incredibly powerful. And Lucretia Borgia was the most famous poisoness. I mean, she gets in a bad press. She wasn't really there. But all these sort of about incest, and Cesare Borgia was the son, and Leonardo da Vinci worked for him, designing weapons of mass destruction. It's really good stuff, and they just go over the top with good BBC British costume drama. Anyway, who's this? So I know he's off in Spain, painting the portrait. That one, I don't think the portrait has survived. That one didn't work, didn't get away. But the next year he's in Portugal, and that one did work because the Duke married a nice Portuguese lady a little bit later on. But again, it's the idea that you're sort of in the entourage with all of these courtier type. In fact, well, that's the Duke of Burgundy. I'll show you the thing briefly on one day. He was actually in command of this group of people running around Spain and Portugal, or second in command. And we just know from the records that Jan van Eyck got paid the same money that this guy did. So that was pretty good compared to what a normal painter would get, $3 a week.
Is that the Duke of? Is that the Burgundy?
No, that's the Duke of Burgundy.
Oh, that one.
It's a copy probably reported by Rogier.
And the
and this is well, I don't want to bother you too much. His name is Baudouin de Manoir.
Me too.
But he's also got that little dent thing around his neck, which means he's a gentleman. And this is a Van Eyck portrait of him with a nice big flower hat on. Anyway, they get back up north, and most of the time, Jan van Eyck seems to have lived in Bruges, died there in 1441. He must have been in Ghent to paint the Ghent altarpiece between around 1432, so we'll look at that in just a minute. And for some reason, he's actually buried underneath the Holiday Inn in Bruges, which is a strange place to be buried, I suppose. It's actually not the Holiday Inn anymore. They got bought out by the Crown Plaza. But next time you're in Bruges, I'm pretty sure you can still do it. Last time I forgot. You can go into the sort of crypt underneath the hotel. They've got all these rather nice spaces, and he's in there somewhere. Anyway, so that's a significant artist. I mean, we know again that even after he died, the Duke did nice things for his children. I think the Duke was godfather to one of his children, so that's pretty special for an artist, again, who's just a humble craftsman, artisan, just making stuff. So, I mean, there's no question, he's by far the most significant figure in Northern Renaissance painting. As I said, no real Renaissance in the North, but that's what we call it, we're sort of stuck with it. But if I just sort of zoom in a bit on this one, it's nice. I think I did mention it, it's like bottle glass. I mean, why in God's name don't you shave your face? And then you say, you get up in the morning, you think, oh, what will I paint today? Oh, I think I'll do some stubble. You can get neat. And then you come back to it, because some of the stubble is sort of double, something you get neat tomorrow. I love this, the cracking, the shrinking of the paint. It's called craquelure. And it's like crazy paving almost, the texture, and that's something that is very hard to fake if you ever get into the business of being a forger. Which is actually quite lucrative because people are very gullible and they want to buy more old master stuff at a bargain price. That's the hardest thing to get is craquelure. And you could infill that and smooth it out and polish it up. Lots of restorers nowadays make things look brand new, which is stupid. But I call this the mapping of the face, because you see it's like the contours on a map, all these wonderful nooks and crannies and the little crow's feet around there. Look at the lights in the eye and the slightly bloodshot eye. I mean, that's just amazing. We'll see an example in a bit where there's no lights in the eye and the figure is just sort of dead. These are the old windows of the soul stuff. And there's quite sort of, well, I think one reason, apart from the fact that painters apparently wore this kind of rather fanciful turban-like thing, that the intensity of the stare, if you brush, after you've painted your candles being blown out, paint yourself. You've got to stare so hard at the mirror that it kind of, there's an intensity in that which is more than just if somebody's sitting there in front of you. Maybe, who knows. But if it's not him, who the hell is it? That's one of the problems. And see, I find this one of the most scary portraits of all time, because this is Mrs. Van Eyck. And And she looks like something out of Alice in Wonderland. But this is, one of the things just to point out is that at this time, you can date the pictures very often. Years and years ago, I went through the AGO with this woman who is the costume historian in the world. She works in London. And almost every picture, she said, no, that can't be 1426 because they didn't do that till 1428. You're going to have to change the date. Because costumes change, particularly with ladies' headdress. We'll see examples later on. And this particular one is sort of probably late 1430s. And you get this wonderful sort of folded up lace there. And you put two thingies, little coney things on either side of your head, and you drape your headdress over that. But it's the toughness. What we're actually going to find is that mostly women are sort of slightly prettified and generalized in the way that their portraits are done. And in this case, it's, you know, this is her. I mean, she's just staring at. But the trouble is, in a way, that she looks a bit like him. So people actually think that maybe this is the father-in-law. You know, this is her father rather than Jan van Eyck. But I still love, I want to think, particularly with the frame, with all that information on the frame, you know, and I think, you know, that to me says self, rather than it being somebody else. But she lives in Bruges. Come back and look at a couple of things in there just a little bit. So anyway, that's just to introduce you to Jan van Eyck himself.